What's going on, everyone? It is Tuesday, January 25th, and welcome to the 9x9, 81 square meters of the best volleyball content on the internet. My name is Everett Rob, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I may be a little disgusting this episode because I'm dealing with COVID. So if you see me blow my nose or doing the cough, pray for me, please. Today, I am joined by the one, the only, the voice of volleyball right now, really, Mr. Rob St. Clair. Rob, due to my current state, I have watched approximately 0 minutes of volleyball over the past week, which, is not great considering the show. So, yeah, you're going to have to carry it a little bit.
Dude, that's okay. I'm ready to carry. I'm happy that you are back and feeling good enough to have a show. I know you got rocked pretty hard over the weekend, and it's happening, man. And what we're certainly going to get to is the continued effect on everybody's favorite coronavirus on the volleyball schedules across the world. But first, the first thing I want to do is I want to be the first show to congratulate Zenit Kazan on winning the 2022 CEV Cup. So congratulations, Zenit Kazan. It's
That's
official.
A little premature, but
no,
but
it's official.
Zenit
Kazan has won the 2022 CEV Cup. Congratulations to them. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Modena has been eliminated. And now I want to get out in front of this right now. I had a take on this very show 1 week ago today where I said that Modena would rebound from the previous week's 3-1 loss at Tours. They would rebound, they would dominate Tours and beat them 15-9 in a golden set. That take is fully invalidated, and I can receive no heat for it because this match wasn't even streamed anywhere. Nobody could even watch it, which was lame.
That's another thing that we need to discuss after.
Yes,
we get into it.
Yes, it certainly is. So literally nobody could watch that match. I think Tommy from the Discord was there because he's a Modena fan and was able to go in person. So he was the only person that actually saw this match take place. None of the rest of us could watch it. But all Tours need to do is take 2 sets. And they did. Modena started it off 25-17. Like, all right, they're gonna prove Rob right on his hot take. They're gonna just steamroll this thing and take care of business against an inferior team. And then, sure enough, Tours turned it around and won both in like that third set, 35-33 to end Modena's CEV Cup season is a pretty crazy stat line. So, and then both teams pulled the starters after that. So the fact that Modena won the match completely didn't matter. As soon as Tours took 2 sets, it was over. And now Modena out of CEV competition. They lost early in the Coppa Italia, like we talked about last week. All they have left to play for this year is the Scudetto. What happened here? What's going on?
Well, the problem is that we didn't get to see it. Like, how can the CEV allow something like that to happen? How can we allow the fact that one of their prime teams, and maybe not their top tier competition, but definitely one of their higher up competitions, isn't streaming a match, and neither legs of this event were streamed. So I don't understand how that slips through for the CEV. That's a huge oversight, right?
It's a miss.
Like it's a miss. This isn't like, every university game is streamed. Like, all you need is one camera, set it up at the baseline, stream it.
So that's really
it's really not that hard.
That's the thing, is that the CEV has very high standards for what are required in a production. You can't just set up one camera and stream a CEV match on their platforms. That is not good enough for them. They insist upon a full professional level broadcast. Like it's written in any one of their contracts with all of their media providers. I've learned this in the last week. So like without like a full production team there for either leg of this, they literally couldn't broadcast the match. And they just they weren't planning on allocating that level of resource to an 8th final series of their 2nd tier competition. And I can't blame them because nobody expected this to be important in any way. Like nobody could have expected this result. So like way before the year, like the CEV had not allocated broadcasting resources to this series of matches. And once Tours took the first leg, it was too late within like a week to set it up again, which sucks. Now I wish that we still need to be able to get video of this match, and like this match still mattered and deserves to be seen somehow, but that at least was the explanation I was given. Still absolutely just ridiculous that this was even set up to be the case. Like there's just no earthly reason ever that this Modena roster should ever lose in the 8th finals of the CEV Cup, no matter who it's against, especially against a slightly above average team from France. This is nuts.
All I know is that I've been watching the Australia Open for however many days now. And 75% of it is all from one static camera at the baseline. But hey, I guess that's not good enough for the CEV. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like, there's no reason for this Modena roster to be losing this. And to be honest, like, looking at these stats, like, because that's all we have to go off of. I can't give you the eye test. Like, Namir scored 24, Engapeth scored 20.
Namir played all 5 sets, so he was the only starter not to go straight to the bench. But like
we saw Swan come out obviously after they lost it.
Swan stinks. Negative efficiency. He sucks.
Okay, I mean, I don't disagree, but it's just weird about the fact that they went down this route, and I'm gonna bring it back to, I just think that they get complacent. That you've got these guys that maybe can't turn it on against a team like Tools, can't turn it on when things are going down in the Italian Cup. It's really odd. And realistically, at this point, we can almost say that the return of the boys is almost a failure, right? Like, losing in the quarterfinals of both the Coppa Italia and the CEV Cup. Like, that's 2/3 of your season right there. I mean, they better do something in the Scudetto. Otherwise, like, that's going to be a huge hit on all of these athletes, but not only the athletes, but the club as well. So I think it's time for Modena to really start looking internally and start like, hey, how do we fix things right now?
Yeah, and the club's in a tough spot because, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, with Italy going to 35% spectator capacity, like, that hurts Modena maybe more than any other club, definitely in Italy and probably in Europe, because the way they exist, their budget is so based upon putting butts in seats at games. Like, that's why their team last year and the COVID year was so bad, is because they didn't have any money from spectators. So, like, they couldn't afford players. If they're in a tough spot right now because of that. That has nothing to do with why this team isn't playing well, because they're paying these players. That problem was not the case when this team was put together. And we've been kind of roasting Andrea Gianni, their coach, the last couple of weeks. Like, he was under fire earlier in the year, then he turned things around. Modena won 13 in a row, and now they're back kind of to the spot, at least in the spotlight negatively, where they were at the beginning of the year. Interestingly, we've got some recent insider information that
we've got some insider sources on the Discord,
right? That states that Gianni will not be fired. We have it on good authority that Gianni will not be fired, but
highest authority,
the very highest authority. But if that's not happening, then I don't know what their fix is going to be. My personal angle, now that we understand Gianni to be safe, is Bruno. And we can talk about this later as we get into our top 12 lists of the year, because that's generated quite the discussion over the last couple of days since we talked about it on last week's show and since we put him out on Instagram. But Bruno's not the Bruno that we remember right now. He has previously had the ability mentally to put, kind of like in an Osmani Juantorena sort of way, like what he brings to Lube, not just with his play, but with his mindset,
leadership,
his leadership and his behavior on the court. Bruno used to have that, and has made a career out of taking teams, like putting teams on his back in situations like a CEV Cup match that you have to win, and turning things around and being the catalyst for improving his team, like, single-handedly. And that has totally not happened this season for Modena, because, like, you've all watched Irvin Engapeth, right? You've seen his body language. Like, when things aren't going well, he will never be the guy to resurrect a team's energy by himself. He's going to mope and be a selfish loser on the court with his body language. That's what happens to him when things get tough. Yoandi Leal is not a guy who I perceive to be that sort of player. Namir, I think, is a higher energy guy, but he's so used to just having to worry about how much he produces that he can't also, like, add the load upon himself of carrying his entire team emotionally. That's part of why the Netherlands is so bad, because he has to do both of those things for them. Like, that should be Bruno's role for this Modena team, and it just hasn't really seemed to happen that way. the last couple important matches when it's mattered. Like they lose to Piacenza in the Coppa Italia. Like that would be a situation when I expect Bruno to lead them into digging deep and figuring it out. Same thing with Tours. And even though we weren't able to watch this match, and I think we could definitely draw a lot more meaningful conclusions about this if we were able to watch the match.
Absolutely.
But that's the next spot that I'm looking past the coach. If we think the coach is safe, then I think the setter and veteran leader who's supposed to be doing that for your team just isn't quite doing that right now.
Do we think that there's too many cooks in the kitchen? Right? Do we think that there's too many guys who see themselves as the top guy and no one's really willing to take that secondary kind of spot, right? Because between Leal, Engapeth, and Namir, you don't have much room there. You've got three guys who are used to being the guy, who are used to running the show. And now I think that, like, if you look at Lube last year, when you had, obviously Rich Licky was the third guy on the outside, and then you had Monterrena and Leal out there, right? And those two have known each other for so long back from their Cuban days that they can have that understanding. But maybe there's that issue between Leal and Engapeth. And then furthermore, I mean, how, like, I want to look at their passing stats real quick.
I mean, dude, I looked at them too. They weren't that bad.
They're not terrible. They're not terrible.
48% positive, Leal 42% positive, Rossini 47. That's not bad. I think Tours passing numbers were better, actually significantly better, 53% positive. It goes back to serving again as well, like we talked about last week when we were talking about Modena, is when they lose sets, like, because we're looking at the previous Tours match, which they went to France, lost 3-1, which we also weren't able to watch. We saw a huge alarming number of service errors in the sets that they lost, and they had the same thing here. Like the sets 26-24, 35-33. there goes Everett with the cough. You're good, dude. The 5 service errors in each of those two sets that they ended up losing by 2 points is significant, especially when in the second set they had 1 ace and in the third set they had 0. That ratio is not even close to good enough. They had 5 in the 5-set match. They had 20 errors and only 4 aces, and three of those aces came in sets 4 and 5 that didn't matter. So that still continues to be a problem that at least jumps off the stat sheet for Modena.
Yeah, serving has been a big issue, especially for a team that serving should be one of their weapons. With, you know, totally. there are 3 outsides alone, you should be getting points. You should be putting teams under pressure. But if you're out there making 20 errors in a match, and the majority of those in the sets that matter, you know, it's not going to come out well. And the other team, you're just not putting them under pressure. But on the flip side of that, Tours missed more, right? They missed 25 serves. So that's one of the reasons why the stat sheet of this match is just sending me for a loop. And once again, we weren't able to watch it because volleyball is a second world sport, or a third world sport almost. You know, hey, TV doesn't matter, streaming doesn't matter. You
gotta be able to watch the games. You gotta be able to watch the games. Like, yeah,
especially CEV Cup, you know, like especially CEV Cup.
And like, I understand that the CEV's standards are high because when they do have the top level production, they really do a great job broadcasting matches, and they do it for a lot of them. Huge, like, resource intensive project is like streaming every 4th round game of Champions League, even though like not all of them, almost none of them have commentators, which in my opinion is the easy part. But they have like all the cameras and all the crazy production equipment for every one of those matches. For a CEV Cup match in the 8th finals, nobody will be mad if the production isn't that caliber. People will be mad if they can't watch the match. And I think it's that simple. It can't be worse than not being able to watch the match at all. And I think that's where I end that personal debate. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Right now I'm trying to look at the CEV Web, the CEV Cup website is a bit of a disaster. It's kind of hard to find. There we go. Finally.
Yeah, especially if the CEV's like, because the CEV wants, obviously the Champions League is the premier competition, but the like CEV Cup and Challenge Cup, if you're not gonna throw any effort at all into this particular match, which is as big of a CEV Cup happening as there's ever going to be in the 8th finals, it is presenting the opposite image than what they want, with them like trying to prioritize Challenge Cup and CEV Cup more. This paints the opposite picture, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a huge loss for Modena. I mean, we saw how great the CEV Cup final was last year between ZSP and Dynamo
Dynamo
Moscow.
Moscow, yeah, it was
I
awesome.
yeah, we loved watching that. And I was really looking forward to that potential showdown between Zenit Kazan and Modena. But there is still a few good teams left. Like if we look into the, I guess this is what the quarterfinals are now. Still got Skra Beltatov having an all right season. Zenit Kazan's going to be taking on Kuzbass Kemerovo, so another Russian team in the next round.
And
Tools is
Kuzbas
going to be
isn't good.
yeah.
Isn't Monza still alive?
Mons is still alive, and they're going to be taking on the winner of like a team from Spain or Belgium in the next round. So they're going to be moving on easily to the semifinals as well. So there's still some decent teams, but the way that Zenit Kazan's playing this year, I don't see anyone in the CEV Cup even coming close to them. The only team that was going to be is Modena, and I think everyone here is a loser in this situation because that's the match that everyone wanted to see, and now we're not going to
Right.
get to see it.
Exactly. That's exactly how I wanted to wrap this discussion up. Is that's the matchup I wanted to see. You had Micah Christensen against his former team. You had Irvin Ingapet against his former team. Like that those storylines were writing themselves, and we were building them up early this season because Kazan isn't in Champions League, and now we don't get that, which is a shame. But again, we want to be the first on this show to congratulate Zenit Kazan for winning the 2022 CEV Cup because I don't think they're going to be touched. So
No,
we'll see
me
if
neither.
they drop any sets along the way.